Hey guys, this is Coach Chris here with an address. The address is on the matter that is happening now today. Matters, may I say, because we went from having a global pandemic because of COVID-19 to literally going slowly proceeding into a racial pandemic. This is something that has been going on for years. Not only the plague that is destroying humanity, wiping people out left and right, but also the plague that is staining humanity. This matter that has to do with Black Lives Matter. I believe strongly that this is an opportunity for us to make a change. I know that it probably took me a much longer time to come out and say what it is that I feel. I just didn't want to address anything in an emotional manner. I wanted to first center myself. I wanted to first ground myself so that I wouldn't say or do anything that would be either considered to be insensitive or something that just sounds like noise. I believe strongly in occupying spaces and places and doing things that we are most effective doing. Many of us are doing things and sounding off in areas that we are not most effective in. I understand this is an emotional time. I understand this is a hard time. I understand this is a heartbreaking time. I am a Black woman. I do have Black friends, a Black father. I have my brothers, my siblings. I have Black people everywhere. So of course, I am affected by what is going on, but I just did not choose to come out to speak on it at the time that everyone else wanted to speak about it. But I promise you that I hope, and I promise you in hopes that I will be able not only to express my thoughts around this, but also to encourage you and all of us in such a time as this, right? I just want you to know that that we shouldn't be forced to believe that because there's a lack of light right now in the world, the world is covered literally in darkness. But the fact that there's a lack of light right now doesn't mean there's a lack of life. The reason why it appears that it's so dark is because somehow the system has made its way to dampening and dimming our light so that they themselves can rise. But I'm here to tell you that you are the light that we're looking for in this time. I am the light that is needed in this time. We are all called to this season, this time, and forever. This is the time that we will make and create legacies and sow seeds that are going to be fruitful to change the trajectory and the destiny of this land and of this nation. I will say that I do not agree with rioting and looting by any means possible at all. Not at all. It's not justified at all on either side, whether it is the side of the people or the sides of the officials. I just don't agree with it at all. I feel like that it is a senseless act and that we are almost, if not already, falling into the trap of the excuses they have once made and been making to treat us and mistreat us the way that they have been doing already. It's almost like, yep, told you, this is exactly what they were going to do, exactly what we thought, exactly. I just didn't want us to fall into that. So that part was a little bit disappointing and disheartening for me, myself, if I can say that. I also will disclaim that I refuse to be a slave to anyone's emotions or anyone's opinions as it pertains to this matter. A lot of people are just, again, expecting that everyone do the same thing at the same time and look like one another all at the same time. I do believe, again, and I'll state that we need to occupy spaces and roles that make us most effective. If everyone is screaming and shouting at the same exact time, I can guarantee you that voices and words will not be heard. It just sounds like sound. It just sounds like noise. It just sounds like whatever. You ever been in a place where the music is just so loud, and even though you know the words, it's almost so hard and impossible for you to get the lyrics, to understand the words, to even hear the rhythm or the beat behind it? That's what I fear. That is exactly what I fear. I don't want us to do that. I want each and every one, if we can, come together, supporting one another to sound off in areas and on topics and on issues and information that we are most equipped on or in. I believe, as you know, in purpose. I believe strongly in identity. And I think that sometimes it appears that Black people have an identity crisis. And the reason that is because obviously the trauma and the drama and the things that we were experiencing hundreds of years ago, the oppressors oppressing us, suffocating us, that so much that George Floyd is not the first person who has screamed that he could not breathe. Many of us couldn't breathe. Many of us are still suffocating and struggling to breathe at this moment. Remember, this pandemic started with us wearing masks. Many of us were struggling to breathe. We have always been suffocated as a people. We have always been suffocating in some way, shape, or form. Whether it was experiences, whether it was situations in the past, it didn't matter. We've always been struggling to breathe. And this is why it is time for us to rise up. This is why it's time for us to take the lead on a lot of these things that are happening. Honestly, to God, I am not with the whole, do it for likes. I'm not with, let's take pictures for history sake. I'm not into that, because a lot of people are really going into the trenches and people are behind the scenes doing what they have to do, while others are just waiting to take that picture to post for a like. Let's be honest. Social media has created it in such a way that we could post and do things just because we want it to seem like we're in. Many of us are not as in as we appear to be. So we can't force and bully people into doing things the way that we want to see them do it. Let's be honest. We are called to be leaders. We are not called to be followers. Yeah, we're called to support one another, but support is not going to look the same way for everyone. There's moral support, there's mental support, there's spiritual support, and there's physical support. Like, we need to know where we belong so that we don't fall into areas that we are not doing our best in. And that's my fear. That's my fear. My fear is exactly that. In the Bible, right, there's been so many situations where God had raised up leaders. I mean, I could speak from Moses to David to Esther to so many people. God has prepared us. And in the beginning of this pandemic, this whole situation that was happening, I was speaking to not only people who I was coaching, but family members and friends. And I was stating that we are in a position right now, closed and locked in, for something that is coming ahead. And we need to be prepared for it. Which means we needed to manage our mindsets. We needed to address unaddressed emotions and unforgivenesses and things. And I'm not going to spiritualize this thing entirely, but I have to tell you that we were being called to soundness. We were being called to be strengthened. We were being called to position for purpose. The reason why this is happening at the time that it's happening is because many of us are carrying the solutions to the problem. But when we're all screaming and making a lot of noise, it's very hard to hear and to understand and even to focus on the bigger picture. I don't want us to be blindsided by anything. I do believe that the confusion that is going on is exactly because we are occupying spaces that we are not most effective in. I'm going to go back to the Bible. When God sent Moses was petrified. Moses didn't know how he was going to be the one who was going to address Pharaoh, who was the oppressor in Egypt. God was never, ever, ever okay with oppression. He was never, ever okay with slavery. He was never okay with injustices. God created us to be free. God created us in love. God created us in His image and in His likeness. And it is now the time that we need to rise up and we need to lead. And we need to lead by example. We need to lead with love despite the hate that we have been shown. A lot of people will not agree with me on this, but love is the ingredient to bring humanity back, bring the human aspect to humanity. So when Moses was afraid, Moses went back to his creator, back to the one who sent him initially, back to the one who created him to be a leader. And God sent him and said, go to Pharaoh and tell him to let my people go. They were in slavery. They were in Egypt. And God was asking that Moses, not even asking, commanding that Moses go to Pharaoh and tell Pharaoh, let my people go. Let my people go to the promised land. Let my people go so that they can worship me. Let my people go. And a form of worship is being able to be free to operate and to access and to take dominion and to subdue and to multiply. But if we are suppressed and we are oppressed, there's no way possible that we will be able to fulfill destiny. There will be no way possible for us to be able to stand in our purpose and to do exactly what God has called us to do. When Esther was in her uncle's house, Mordecai's house, she was being prepared. Had she known that God was going to allow the queen who was in the house to be vanished, to be quote unquote impeached, quote unquote moved out of the house so that Esther could come in. Esther was called to break the protocol and to speak on behalf of her people so that they wouldn't die. The Bible says that Esther was called for such a time as this, to speak on the matters of the nation, to speak on the matters of humanity. For such a time as this, where are the Esthers? Where are the Moseses? David was anointed at age 16. Even while he was rejected, he too was being oppressed because they didn't even acknowledge him as one of the brothers. But God, being sovereign, seated high and looking low, he said, no, these are not the ones who I'm speaking about. There is another one. And he said, yes, he's tending to the sheep. Could it be that you're tending to the sheep, but God is calling you forward? Could it be that you're tending to something, but God is calling you forward? It was just a matter of time that young little shepherd boy David was called to defeat the Goliath, the giant. People were petrified. People were afraid because Goliath was a giant, slaying people left and right. But David was called. David, little young shepherd boy David was called to slay Goliath. And when he slew Goliath, we got to understand that David was indeed called to be a leader. David was indeed called to be a leader. Let's look at Joseph. Joseph was rejected. Joseph was abandoned. Joseph was thrown into a pit. He was sold to slavery by his own brothers. He was sold to slavery by his own brothers. But he persevered. He kept going. He didn't stop. And you guys hear me talk about Joseph so much. He's actually one of my most favorite characters in the Bible. He persevered. He was accused. He was abused. He was in a pit. He was in the prison. But it didn't stop him from getting to the palace. God made Joseph in such a way that he gave Joseph insight and foresight. So much that Joseph knew what to do when the land will be suffering miserably. Before Joseph was on the throne, before Joseph was officially a leader, considered a leader to the people, Joseph already had the solution. Joseph was positioned for purpose, despite of the pain, despite of the oppression, despite of being suppressed, despite of being sold, despite of being silenced. Joseph persevered. Now let's talk about Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, who was sent for all of humanity. Let's talk about him. The Messiah. Let's talk about him. Jesus Christ was faithful unto death. Jesus Christ knew that he was a leader. Jesus Christ went through being castigated, ostracized, accused, spit on, abused, rejected, denied. Jesus Christ went through almost everything that we are going through at this current moment. He was considered to be even a clown at some point, because they clowned him like, oh, you are the sent one. Oh, since you are the Messiah, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? They tested him. They tested his power. They tested his influence. They tested him. But Jesus Christ was not only humble, but he was aware of who he was and is. He knew that he was called on this earth to pave a way, to create the way, that we will no longer be considered to be slaves, but we will be free. Jesus Christ carried a cross. What cross are you carrying? What are you willing to die for as it pertains to our people? As it pertains to this time? As it pertains to this season that we're going through? This season is just the beginning of our reformation. It is just the beginning of what's to come. We have not seen anything yet. Are we prepared? Are we prepared? And I want to say that Jesus Christ was in pain, but he made a decision. He obeyed. He was tactical. He was strategic on everything that he did. He didn't speak before his time. He didn't do before his time. We are lacking patience to some extent. And some of you might disagree, because you're going to say that we've been going through this for so long. Yeah, we have been going through this for a very long time. Yeah, we have been. But patience, we don't dictate how long it is that we have to wait on God to give us the opportunity, because our relevance would be seeked. And this is the time. The reason why we are the way that we are and we are feeling the way that we are is because solution, destiny, purpose is on the inside of us. But if we can understand who we are and continue to go against the odds, continue to persevere, continue to hope against hope, in our identity, in our dignity, we will persevere. We will prosper. We will do this land so much good. This generation, I do not doubt, I have no doubt that we are called to change. We are called to transform. We are called to do it. But you have to know where you belong. Jesus Christ, he kept going. He bled. He cried. He cried. But he said for the people. He had the people. He had us in his heart. He had us in his heart, which shows the condition of Jesus' heart towards humanity. And I'm not gearing away from saying that I'm not gearing away from Black Lives Matter. Yes, we do matter. And this is why we have to be wise. This is why we cannot fall into the trap that the people, the opposers have set for us. I want us to rise up. We are leaders. We are leaders. And I am too upset and disappointed. Yes, I am, with all that is going on. I'm most upset and disappointed with our response. I'm not going to go into the details, but come on, guys. We know what is right, and we need to do what is right. And I'm going to disclaim that this message is not only for the Black lives, because all lives matter. And I know many people are going to be upset because I said all lives matter. But that includes Black lives. That includes the Black life. That includes Black men. It has to stop. It really does. Enough is enough. Let my people go. That is what God said. The Lord said, let my people go. So if you know that you are one who is standing against our freedom, shame on you. Shame on you. If you know that you are racist or you have prejudices, shame on you. Shame on you. Because you're the reason why this is happening. Where's the human aspect of humanity? It's in love. Do you lack love? Do you discriminate as to who deserves love and who doesn't? I don't even want to go into that direction for too much, because this message wasn't even to do that, to go in this direction. But enough is enough. We're pleading with you guys to treat us as humans. But I'm also pleading with our people, my people, that we need to act and react and respond in a way that is justifiable. In a way, regardless of what they have done. Let's set the new trajectory and the new, let's do it. Let's reform. Let's create this change that we want. I understand we're emotional beings. I understand that we're hurting. I understand all those things. But let's do it the right way. We need leaders that look like us and understand us. But we need leaders also who are not into the biases. Enough is enough. We bleed blood. All of us bleed red blood. All of us. None of our blood is different from color different than the other. And what I want to say is, and I will end here, that our assignment, mine and yours, person who's listening, people who are listening to this, is that we identify our area. I am not going to look like you. You are not going to look like me. I am not going to sound like you. You are not going to sound like me. Let's not separate and cause division where we don't need separation and division. This is the time that we become a unit, that we collectively come together. But understand, coming together does not mean we all look alike. Does not mean that we're all going to sound alike. Does not mean that we're all going to do it the same way. Stop bullying people into doing things and seeing things and feeling things the way that you feel, see, and feel. Let's get to thinking. Let's get to deciding. Let's get to strategizing. Let's get to really looking into situations and being able to execute properly. And at the end of it all, and at the bottom of it all, one, let's be faithful unto death. Let's do this until the end, because the reason you and I are alive today is because purpose is still on the inside of us. We have the solution. And at the end of it all, let's do it in love. I know many of you will not be okay with this message, because it sounds like we don't really know where she stands. But I stand to be black. I'm standing with my black brothers. I'm standing with my black sisters. But I do believe that we all need to be unified. I do believe that we all need to come together collectively, effectively, proactively, to do something that is going to change the trajectory and the destiny of this life. So, with that being said, I pray that you be strengthened. I pray that you be comforted. I pray that we will have insight and foresight. I pray for solutions. I pray that one day we will all come together as one. God bless you.